I am Tony Todd, and welcome to Throwing Heat. I'm here with my co-host, Ross the Boss. Today's guest is someone who I've always looked up to. He's a 1988 World Series winner from the Los Angeles Dodgers. Let's welcome to the show, Mr. Tim Leary's in the house. What's up, Tim?
Morning, Tony.
Morning, Tony. All right. Tim, so I'm going to take you way back to 1976, right? When you graduated from Santa Monica High School. You had a record of, as a pitcher of, I believe it was 10-2. And that year, you were not drafted. Is that true? But in 1979, you were the second overall pick in the Major League Baseball draft.
Well, I think my high school coach informed scouts that I was a good student and school would be a good option. And I was 17 and a half in June of 76. I threw hard. It was probably 90, 89, 90, 91 on today's gun. And I kept getting, more velocity going forward. So after I played that summer with our American Legion baseball team, and I had 18 complete 9-inning games. So by the end of that summer, we played in the American Legion World Series in Manchester, New Hampshire, Labor Day weekend. And after one of the games, a Met scout came up to me and he basically offered me second round or first round money to sign, but I was set to go to UCLA. I didn't want to sign. Yeah. I mean, the money wasn't that big. It was $30,000, but that's the way it was then. So then I went back. So I was probably throwing harder for sure, like 80, 93, 94 by the end of that summer. And then in the fall, I played for UCLA and we had fall ball and on and on and on.
Well, we actually have a photo of that 76 American Legion team. That's so special. You guys won the championship. Can you comment on that photo and some of the guys?
What does it? What's it say? Wanted, dead or alive? Is that from the 1850s? That photo looks old.
It is old. Well, we had 7 guys drafted off that team over a few years. So we were a loaded team. We had Division I players at every position. They didn't all go straight to D1, but the guys that did go to college played D1 at some point. Our third baseman didn't go to college, but he was a D1 player. Rod Allen got drafted the next year out of high school and signed. Stanley Younger went to BYU and played football and baseball and got drafted by the Tigers, got up to AAA. Richard Schroeder, our other pitcher, who threw a 10-inning no-hitter in the American Legion World Series against Mike Boddicker from Cedar Rapids, Iowa. He went to JC first and then 4-year school. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Our first baseman, who was awesome, Gary Humston, 6'4", left-handed thrower, switch hitter with power. He went to Pepperdine and started all 4 years. Was an incredible player.
And how about one of the guys coach for the Chicago White Sox?
Terry Bevington was
he was before you.
A couple years older than me at high, and then he signed with the Yankees out of high school.
That's why I always tell my buddy, the co-host Ross, that it was so great growing up in Santa Monica because, as kids, you're a few years older than I am, but we had heroes in the neighborhood. We didn't have to look on television to find our heroes. They were all in the neighborhood like yourself, Stanley Younger, Dennis Smith, Dennis Thurman, guys like that, Rod Allen. So, as kids younger, we inspired to be as great as you guys were. And because it was back in the day, it was a small knit community in Santa Monica. It's not like how it is now. And that, Tim. So
absolutely. There were families, big families, lots of kids. Dennis Thurman was a senior in high school in 1974. Mm-hmm. He was like the Jackie Robinson of Santa Monica. He played football, quarterback, safety, basketball, 20 points a game. I don't know if he actually ran on the track team, but he ran 440.
Yeah. And was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds.
He just showed up. He just showed up to the track team and ran.
And in 1973, Santa Monica High won CIF.
Yeah.
That would have been my 9th grade year. In 10th grade, I had to play JV because we were still loaded. And Dennis Thurman was on that team.
Wow.
first round of the playoffs, myself, Tony Diaz, got called up to the team. Mike Tennant was already there. And Thurman hit a grand slam in the first game of the playoffs, but we lost 5-4.
Well, he definitely picked the right sport. I mean, he was I believe he was all pro in the NFL for a few years, and he was an All-American at USC, right, for safety, Tony?
Yes, he was.
He was unbelievable. He was a headhunter. He was great to watch. When you were at UCLA, you mentioned in an interview that I read that your idol, one of the people that you idolized, you got to meet, John Wooden. Can you tell us about that?
Well, John Wooden was such an icon, and our coaches back then really looked up to him and followed a lot of his principles. And so it was a big honor for me when I first met John Wooden, because he was around UCLA still after he retired in 1975. And so I spoke to him 8 or 9 or 10 times. And his favorite sport, he said, was baseball.
Yeah.
He coached baseball before he came to UCLA at Indiana State. Yeah, he was a great man, incredible
Great
man.
man. I was lucky. I live in Tarzana. He lived in the same neighborhood as me. And I used to see him at least once a week at the same coffee shop. He used to go there every day. It's still there. It's called Vips. And he was there every day. He had his own booth. He walked there from his condo. Most approachable guy I ever met. I mean, I had deep conversations with him many times. Just one of the nice guys in sports. And I'm sad to see he's gone.
Tim, while at UCLA, you had does this record still hold up? You had 16 complete games. Does that record still hold up at UCLA? And do you think if it does, do you think it would ever be broken?
Well, it's unlikely, just because they recruit more depth in pitching for bullpen help, and pitch counts have become a big issue. So that's going to be a tough one. Trevor Bauer tied my season record with, I think, 11 complete games. So it's possible, but it's unlikely.
It's especially now with pitch counts, and they baby these pitchers now. As you know, Tim, when you pitched, I don't think they had pitch counts. When I was watching a baseball game, I never heard about pitch counts. Now they just baby these guys, and they barely get to throw a complete game. You know, I'm right.
I mean, the good thing in the major leagues, for example, is if they go 100 pitches, 110 pitches max, they're more fresh for their next start, and it extends careers. But in college, you get 7 days. You pitch on a Friday, then you pitch on the next Friday. I would actually start on a Tuesday game and pitch an inning or two, and then pitch again on Friday instead of doing a bullpen work. But that's not going to happen.
No, those days are over with. The old Bob Gibson days of pitching complete games every time he gets the mound, we don't see that anymore. I mean, those days are gone. And I mean, pitchers, it's all about pitch count and the word about hurting people's arms and contracts and everything else. So, I mean, I enjoyed when pitchers used to pitch 150, 160 pitches a game, but those no one's
but people could do it more. But aluminum bats came in my 10th grade year in high school, and metal bats make it better for the offense, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
So another factor about complete games in college.
Now, 1988 was like a magic year for you. I mean, you won a World Series, but that was a long year. Can you tell the audience how you would drive from Santa Monica without Tony Todd in the car, no Tony Todd, all the way to Tijuana, just so you can play some winter ball? Can you just tell the audience how you did that, like for many, many times?
Well, it started in 1986, I was with the Brewers and finished the season strong, was their number 2 starter. Then in December of that year, I got traded to the Dodgers. And when I went to spring training, I thought I did everything right, but I just didn't have the same velocity. So the whole year I was sort of battling velocity. So I was in and out of the rotation. I think I only had about 115 innings pitched. So I really wanted to play winter ball, but I also wanted to go back to school and finish my degree. So Mike Brito got me set up with Tijuana. Yeah, I would drive 163 miles one way from Sunset Boulevard and the PCH where I was living. I'd stop halfway at Big A's Burgers. Get down to the field by 5 o'clock, game at 7, pitch 9 innings, put some ice on underneath my jersey. We'll change out of my jersey and shirt, put on another shirt, but have ice on, wrap it up, and go back over the border and home, and then get up and go to school the next day.
Wow. Now, do you think there's an athlete today who would endure that pain, I would call it, because they have to take the 405 freeway? Do you think that,
There are some, but not as many for sure, because it's just a grueling adventure. Like looking back, I was 12-1, so I had 13 starts, 138 innings. We won the Mexican Winter League champion. I actually got 2 championships in the calendar year of '88.
Yeah, that's impressive. Not many people can say they won 2 championships in 1 year. One of them was with the '88 Dodgers. And that year, I was looking at the stats. You pitched less innings than Oral Hershiser, and you had more strikeouts than Oral. And you were 17 and 11. I mean, Oral had 23 wins, but still, I mean, you had a great year, but like your arm got tired. And why don't you tell us about that? How in September, October, your arm wasn't what it was like in June.
Well, so spring training, I had about 30 innings, had a great spring. During the season, I pitched a total of 238 innings, I believe. Wow. I think by mid-August, early September, I still had velocity, but my delivery got a little bit off. So my release point was a little bit inconsistent. And back then, like that team didn't score much. If we got runs, that was a big output. So we had to really pitch great to get a win. I had 10 wins in the second half, and I pitched 4 games on 3 days rest right after the All-Star break. Went 7, 9 innings and 9 plus. And they were all on one road trip. So then Oral got hot and carried the torch the rest of the way. He was unbelievable. And we pitched to contact more. Like the hard hitter was the number 1 pitch for starting pitchers. There were others that didn't, like Sid Fernandez and Nolan Ryan. They threw more 4 seams, but it was more about fastball in, slider away, keep the ball down, pitch inside, log innings, get quick outs, get double plays.
It was a very defensive team. I remember very well. I remember Don Sutton was on that team. He was 43 years old, and he was on that team, and people forget about that. I mean, Don Sutton was still on the team at 43, and he won a World Series with that team, which is unbelievable.
Yes, he was on the team till mid-June, and then as he described it, he had a fire in his elbow.
You mentioned Oral. Oral had a lot of he was a guy that had the same routine every time he pitched. Can you tell us about that? How I don't know if he was superstitious, but he had routines that he did.
Well, first off, Oral was the best pitching coach I ever had.
Okay.
He really worked on some things because he knew a lot, and he had great pitching coaches throughout the Dodger system with Dave Wallace and Sandy Koufax and Ron Pernosky. At Oral, the guy who really had superstitions was Brian Holton.
Can you tell me about his superstitions?
He would jump over the foul line, number 1, but even during the game, he would have this little lasso about this long, and he would lasso someone's finger in the 4th inning. Yeah. I think Oral was more just routine oriented.
Yeah.
As was I and most players, because routine is important. Oral trained hard. Fernando trained hard. We all trained hard because you got to be able to do things efficiently. You can't overtrain and you can't undertrain. You have to stretch and log cardio hours, either running or Versa climber, stationary bike, along with some running. So there's a lot you need to do, but you have to know how to do it properly and when to do it.
Now, speaking of that, Tim, can you tell us what was your off-season regimen? Because I see guys now, my opinion, I think they're lifting way too many weights. And what would you say on that?
If you lift weights, you have to stretch even more. You have to make sure those muscles are elongated and tendons and because you can get in trouble. There's a lot of guys going on the IL now for all different injuries because they're not flexible enough, whether it's their low back, their side, oblique, could be anything. So lifting weights can be harmful if not done right.
Now, when you were playing, Tim, did you, let's be honest now, did you ever hear of an oblique? Did you know anyone that went on the IL because of an oblique?
No, that wasn't common by any means.
Well, I mean, now, Tim, the game has changed a lot, as you know. Now it's either hit a home run or strike out. I mean, Javi Baez is on the pace to strike out 200 times this year. And so, I mean, I think players are trying to hit a home runs a lot more than trying to get on base. But that all being said, I mean, now they're checking pitchers for foreign substances, which after the inning, after you're done, you go see the pit, you go see the ump, you show the hat, you show the glove. I mean, when you played, was any of this stuff going on? I remember the old clip of Joe Negro and the nail file, but I mean, were there people using like Vaseline or using weird stuff to get better spin on the ball? Did that happen when you played?
There was some people liked pine tar just because it helped with their curveball. I didn't like any of that stuff because it was too sticky, and I didn't need it for a split or a sinker or anything. But so there was some of it. Pascual Perez threw an Afro Sheen ball. It's like a spitter. It was really good, and he didn't use it that often. It's such a good slider. And I played Pascual on the Yankees, and it was hush hush. Like players didn't want anyone to know, not even their teammates, if they could.
Yeah, I mean, now it's just like every inning, every time the pitcher pitches, they look for. I mean, they only caught one guy. The guy for Seattle was the only guy they caught like the first week. I don't even know why he was so stupid to even get caught. But I mean, now it's just like you're not seeing a big change in numbers right now. But I mean, I think now the hitters are a lot happier that they're checking the players. I mean, do you feel that's something that had to be done, or do you think it was just an outcry because the batting average for MLB was at like 238, like in June?
Well, they had to enforce it pretty hard just to make a point. The bad thing was they did it mid-season. You know, they do it preseason or at the end of the season, but that's the way it is. And it does affect the spin rate. I mean, you see the numbers. It's a 10% difference or so in spin rates for breaking balls, and all that matters. And yeah, MLB didn't want such little offense. That's what the fans come to see is offense. And I think pitchers in the majors were just getting accustomed to be able to use sticky substances because they weren't getting checked.
I agree. And you played on 7 different teams. You played for. I'm a Reds fan, so I remember when you were traded to Cincinnati. I think and Mariano Duncan was in that trade, I believe, and the Dodgers got Cal Daniels. But I remember when you were traded. But you guys are known for great pranks. We interviewed many baseball players, and they always have some great prank stories. Do you have a prank story you can tell us?
Yeah, there's a thing called the 3-man lift. And Rod Dedeaux came to spring training in '88, he was good friends with Tommy Lasorda, and he was the legendary head baseball coach at USC. So some of the guys did a 3-man lift on Dedeaux, which meant he was basically trapped on the ground. And I sprayed shaving cream on his leg at UCLA.
Of course you did. You're a Bruin. He's a Trojan. Of course you sprayed shaving cream on his leg. Of course you did.
I didn't participate much in pranks.
No.
It seemed a little foolish to me. But in fact, Lasorda. So in '88, '87, I mean, my first year with the Dodgers, I had a poor spring. And toward the end of spring training, I get called into Tommy's office in Vero Beach. And he says, close the door. And he's in there with Ron Peronowski. And then Tommy goes, well, Timmy, we're going to have to send you to AAA. And I'm like, no way. And then he goes, April Fools.
Why would he do that? Was it April 1st?
Yeah, he did that every year, apparently. The next year, he told Mike Davis he's being traded to Cleveland. So that was a sort of an emotional spot for me with Tommy. And that's a good thing, because Tommy does make you play with more emotion and really be fiery. So it fired me up to, just to get back at him, which really getting back at him was figuring out how to be better.
Yeah,
So
Tony and I would go to Dodger games, and Tommy would sit like right behind us, and it was such a good feeling to see him there. And it's so sad he's not there anymore, and he passed a couple years ago. And it's just, for me, I think we lost an icon. I mean, Tommy at Dodger games was just he had to be there. You know what I mean? For me to enjoy the game, I had to see Tommy Lasorda.
Well, Tommy wasn't just a great motivator; he was a great communicator. He spoke Spanish fluently. He could talk to everybody. You'd remember your wife's name, your children's name. Wow. He had stories. Sometimes he'd use different motivating tactics over and over my 2.5-year period, but he made a point and he got people fired up. God bless.
Did he throw BP to you at all? Did when you were there, was he still throwing batting practice to the team?
Not to the pitchers. So I never batted off him, but he threw some batting practice, early BP.
And now you actually won the Silver Stick for hitting as a pitcher, which is a huge accomplishment. And you were a really good hitter. And the Dodgers no teams really ever used you as a pitch hitter. They just, you batted when you had to. But I mean, did you ever get to pitch hit at all when you were playing in the major leagues?
Well, I'll give myself props here. I was 29 for 100, my first 100 at bats in the big leagues.
Wow.
290, Tony.
I know.
In August of 88, we had a tie game in the bottom of the 11th, and I could see how things would unfold, that we'd run out of bench players to use. So I got my helmet and cleats on and took a couple swings. I got called to pinch hit with the bases loaded, 2 outs against the Giants in the 11th inning, and got the count to 3-2, fouled one back, and then I got a base hit up the middle.
Oh, wow.
That was an unreal experience.
Like in high school, were you like a good hitter? Like in high school?
He was a great athlete.
Yeah.
Real good hitter.
Another thing that bothers Ross and I is, Tim, I know you've always known how to do this. You were a very, very good bunter. And today, there's men on first and second, no one out, and they can't get him in. I'm like, I don't get that, huh?
You get sacrifice bunts down, because when they come up, you better execute. And the Dodgers had a great instructor in spring training, Coach McLaughlin. And we worked on different setups. If you were going to bunt to first base, third base, be up in the box, have the angle of the bat, everything set so you didn't have to jab at it. You could just move down to the ball. And we got more fastballs to bunt back then. Now they tend to throw more breaking balls on bunts, because bunting a breaking ball can be tough to keep it fair. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I took pride in being a good bunter. In fact, the only 2 bunts I remember not getting down, I got the 2 strikes off Mike Scott, and he threw a split, and I fouled it off, so that was an out. And another time, strikes against Eric Shaw, and he threw me a slider, and I fouled it off. But other than that, I executed. They all did.
That's, I mean, again, you won a Silver Stick. Not many pitchers can say they won a Silver Stick, and it's a great trivia question. I mean, what?
Yeah,
you're part of a trivia question right now with the Silver Stick, winning the Silver Stick. So let's talk about the Dodgers. Do you follow you follow baseball still, obviously. You watch the games.
Yeah, I watch quite a few Dodger games and other games around the league.
Just like Tony and I do. We have the package. We watch everything. I'm always texting Tony, making sure he's watching. I mean, I feel the Dodgers are going to, Tony and I went to the World Series last year in in Dallas, and we saw the Dodgers win the World Series in person last year. Do you think the Dodgers can repeat with getting Schwartzer and Turner? I mean, their team is stacked. I mean, it's if they don't win, it's a shame.
Yeah, well, there's other really good teams also. The White Sox are really tough. The Astros, so there's great teams out there. It comes down to execution. I mean, the formula still holds: great pitching, great defense, and timely hitting. There's going to be close games. And last year, the Dodgers bullpen really excelled in the last 2 games and held them in check. And that's what it takes. It takes top to bottom pitching staff, because if one guy struggles, you lose the game.
And you have a World Series ring, 1988. Unbelievable. Just to remind the audience, that was the series when Kirk Gibson limped up to the plate basically and hit a home run to win the game, and everybody went crazy. Did you, sitting in the dugout, did you think he was going to hit a home run? Did you think he was going to hit? What was your prediction before he swung the bat?
Well, I had pitched. I was the first reliever in that game. I pitched innings 3, 4, 5. So I was in the clubhouse,
Oh,
still with ice on my shoulder and in shorts and shower shoes. And we knew that 3-2 count to a left-hand hitter was probably going to be a backdoor slider or just a slider for a strike. And Gibby knew that. So there was anticipation for sure. And when he hit that, I put my pants on and my jersey and ran out on the field with shower shoes on. And then we came back into the clubhouse, and nobody sat down for about an hour and a half. The electricity in the air was the most incredible thing ever. Because we knew we had Oral pitching the next night, and it put the A's in a big hole. It shocked them.
No, you did. And I was friendly with Renee Latchman. His son and I went to college together. So I was with them the next day. And they were not too happy, especially Dennis Eckersley throwing that slider and getting it hit out of the ballpark. Do you wear your World Series ring? Do you ever wear it out, or you just keep it in the safe?
It's right on his collar right now. Isn't it on your collar?
So I wear it once in a while, for special occasions. I remember when we first got them in May of '89, we went on a road trip, a 10-day road trip back east, and I brought it and wore it. But it's you could lose it or get it stolen, because
I agree.
during the games. So
where is it right now, Tim?
It's here at home.
Oh, okay. Thanks for showing us.
It's in the safe. So
I can get it.
Yeah, I would love for you to get it.
Want me to get it now?
Yes, that would be great. How far you have to go first?
Just take 30 seconds or less.
We'd love to see it. Oh my goodness, there it is, a 1988
so this
LA
is the
Dodgers.
1988 Dodgers World Series ring.
ring.
And let's see the front. Wow.
That's incredible, Tim.
That's a great one. I mean, that's a big piece of history, Tim. And you pitched that game, which I totally remember now.
There you go.
That's unbelievable.
Now,
let me see. Oh, I would wear that on my lip every day.
That's true.
That's incredible.
I would actually have a fake one and wear the fake one around and not wear that one at all.
No, I would wear that one every day on my lip. And
I would be afraid, like Tim said, I'd be afraid.
I would not be afraid
of getting robbed.
Now, Tim, I still see you in the neighborhood, and it's just so lovely to see you still, giving back to the kids and working with the kids. But one thing that bothers me, and when we were growing up, my parents, they just dropped us off at the game, and we'll see you at, they'll come to the game and we'll see you at home. What advice could you give parents? Because every parent thinks that their kid is going to be a major leaguer. And we know that's one of the hardest jobs to obtain in life, is to be a major leaguer and stay a major leaguer. So what advice would you give to the parents?
First off, take the pressure off the kids. Let them keep it fun, especially through high school. Because after high school, the parents may go to college games, but it's not as much. So high school can be a lot of pressure for kids when their parents are always there, pressing. I mean, parents are pretty good, but all it takes is one or two tough parents for a high school coach, and it can really divide the parents and players.
Yeah, I don't believe in hovering, because when we grew up, I mean, we had coaches. Our coaches knew what they were doing. There's no reason to hover around your kids, especially if you're having lessons or just support them in other ways. Just, keep them confident, and believe that if someone's working with them, they're doing their best. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, results take time.
Mm-hmm.
If it's always results oriented, it's going to lead to their failure, because guys can hit the ball hard and make an out. Walks happen. As a pitcher, you can only pitch every so often because of the arm. So it takes time to develop. And I mean, parents are really supportive for the most part, but like I said, it only takes one or two to divide a group of parents, and that can be a tough situation. And losing is not good.
No.
I mean, we won, we lost. I mean, parents were working. and mothers were either working or raising 6 kids. I mean, the families were big, especially in Santa Monica, but everywhere. So it was a treat when a parent came, really, because they couldn't come that often. I never saw Mike Tennant's parents. I didn't even meet them until about 20 years ago.
Wow.
They were,
Really quick, and then we'll let you go. I mean, you work with kids. You actually you're a pitching coach for a lot of kids. They come and see you and get personal training with you one-on-one. Has any of those kids like pitched in college or made it into like any high level in baseball?
oh yeah, I've had, kids that were, I've coached kids as young as 6 years old, all the way up through college, pro pitchers. So it's a big number of kids and families. So I can coach kids at any age. I know what the development is. The tough thing for a coach is diagnosing what they need right away. It's not a cookie cutter job. It's specific to each kid. And I coach hitting also and fielding. And I've gotten a lot of guys better just hitting with a basic stance and using their hands properly. I gave Lucas Giolito his first pitching lesson when he was 9. But then after that, he didn't really pitch a lot until high school. By his junior year, he really turned it on. They had a good pitching coach at his high school, who's now the White Sox pitching coach.
Yeah, no, the White Sox. We had Lucas on a few months ago. Great kid. I mean, he's the White Sox, as you said, they're playing great. And so Scott Heineman we had on, who's from Santa Monica, and then we had there's so many great athletes that come out of Santa Monica, including yourself, Tim. But thank you for coming on our show. It's a pleasure to hear your stories. And it's just, I grew up watching you pitch, and you had a great career, and thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim.